Tim Constantine for the Washington Times. If you look at the last couple of weeks, there's been a lot of activity in the Republican race for the 2016 presidential nomination. Not only are Ted Cruz and Rand Paul in, but now Carly Fiorina and Ben Carson are official candidates as well. Rick Santorum and Rick Perry have both announced approximate dates when they're expected to get in. The one other name that keeps coming up is Jeb Bush. And Jeb Bush, from the mainstream media, seems to get an inordinate amount of attention. Let's look at the polls. In New Hampshire, there are 4 candidates clumped right at the top. Rand Paul, Scott Walker, Jeb Bush, and Marco Rubio are all virtually tied. When we go to Iowa, however, there's a very different story. Scott Walker is way out in the lead. He's got about 21% of the vote in the state of Iowa. As you go down the list, the next couple of names on that list are Marco Rubio and Rand Paul. They have 13% each. Ted Cruz pulls 12%. But you have to keep going down the list, below Mike Huckabee, below Ben Carson. You have to keep going down, and in 7th place, you find Jeb Bush with 5%. When the mainstream media keeps talking about Jeb Bush as though he is a frontrunner, as though he is the likely candidate, you have to scratch your head and wonder why. When we look at the issues and we look at the path to the nomination, typically it's a conservative path through the Republican Party. Jeb Bush's positions, however, don't really match up with that conservative path. He is pro-amnesty for illegals. He's pro-Common Core, the one-size-fits-all educational program for the entire United States. He won't promise not to raise taxes, and he justifies what he says would have been his support for invading Iraq by comparing himself to Hillary Clinton and her support for invading Iraq. And therein lies the rub on Jeb Bush. When Jeb Bush and Hillary Clinton are your choices, you really have much of the same. They're not as different as you might think. They're very different than the other Republican candidates, but Jeb Bush can't call himself a conservative. He can call himself, and has, very much like Hillary Clinton. Jeb Bush was a great governor in the state of Florida. I know him. I worked with him while we were both in the state of Florida. Jeb Bush is a great guy. But it was the 1990s when he was first elected. It was also the 1990s when Hillary Clinton first came to national attention with her husband as First Lady. As we look forward for a president to take us to 2020 and beyond, do we really want to look back to the 1990s? As you decide who your preferred candidate is for the 2016 race, don't be taken in simply by the mainstream media's narrative that Jeb Bush and Hillary Clinton are the nominees. Take a look around. Those polls will show you Jeb Bush is not in the lead. Jeb Bush may be able to raise more money. He may have great name recognition, but there are a lot of good candidates out there. The Republicans have a deep bench. If you like Jeb Bush, vote for him. But do yourself and the entire country a favor and look at all the candidates. There's a lot of good choices there. For the Washington Times, I'm Tim Constantine.